sunshine I gotta love, and I know that it's all mine. Oh.
Hi there, my name is Hillary, and this is going to be the first in a series of tutorials for Autodesk Revit. So this one is going to be on the interface basics and on beginner troubleshooting. So you're going to need to have downloaded Autodesk Revit. I'm going to be using 2018 because it's what I have on my computer already, but you can use Revit 2020 as well. The first major difference you're going to notice is the opening screen. So if it looks like this, no need to worry, you can just click the open button and everything else will pretty much be the same. So you're also going to need a mouse because we need the scroll wheel in order to orbit. So let's get started. So we're going to click New, and you're going to click Architectural Template. I only ever use Architectural Template. So some projects, when they're bigger, they can take a long time to open, but for now it's going to be quick. I have no idea what this is. I think it might have been a plugin. I just close it. So this is going to be your opening screen. I think when you download it for the first time, these may not look like this. They might look like this. But because we're going to be doing a lot of scrolling, I like to change that and just drag it. There we go. So you have your properties panel right here, and this tells you all of the information about whatever you're clicking on. So right now we're in a floor plan, so it tells you everything about this floor plan. And then your project browser is here. This is where you're going to find all of your views and sheets, and that's pretty much all you're going to use it for. You can also make schedules, which are basically lists, legends, groups, and you can have a giant list of your families. So I'm going to start by going through everything that I used as a design student in this top bar here. So this is the architecture tab. And so this is where you're going to find all of your modeling elements. So your walls, you can make wall sweeps, doors, windows, components, which are like furniture. You can place a component, and Revit comes with a whole library of things that might be useful. Columns, roof, ceiling, floor, blah, blah, blah. Stairs are useful. Model text, in case you ever want that. Model lines are 3D lines, different from detail lines, which are like two-dimensional lines. And then your shaft for if you're going to make an elevator. Grid for when you're setting up your project and you want a structural grid. And then reference planes I'll get to in a later video. Structure. I haven't ventured too much into the whole world of structure on Revit, but you're gonna use mostly these basic tools. So you can make a beam system, which is really useful because it adapts with your grid if you change something, and then columns, and then the rest of these tools that resemble the architecture tab, but they're to do with structural elements. Systems. I've hardly ever used these before because honestly Revit isn't that good at making HVAC and MEP and stuff like that, but it's here if you want to use it. If you're going to be modeling HVAC, you might want to use a different template instead of the architectural template, which is what we opened in the beginning. Insert. You can link in different Revit models, so if somebody else is working on something, or if you've divided your file up because it's getting so big, you can link in Revit models and they will always update. You can manage those links here. You can import CAD, which is really useful. So if you, for example, download something from a map from the city website or a topography, like a 3D topography CAD file, you can import that. And then you can also import an image and you can scale that image really nicely. And for example, I've used that if I took a screenshot of Google Earth or Google Maps and then just traced something if the city's maps were out of date and maybe an aerial image is more accurate. Or even You can place an image vertically as well, and so I've used that to trace facades so that I can model the existing context. And then you can load families here as well, so if you want to load in furniture and things like that. Annotate. This isn't used that much if you're going to be making a studio project because nobody is ever going to open this BIM. You're just using it as one step in your project, but you're going to eventually make presentation drawings, and so no one's ever going to open this file. But if you need to use Revit for, let's say, a tech project, or if you're going to be making technical drawings, you're probably going to use Annotate a lot. So this masking region tool is really important when you're drawing details. Detail lines, which are two-dimensional lines, and you can line weight them, although Revit isn't very good at line weighting. This insulation, and then you have all of your dimension tools and text, which is important as well. Analyze, never looked at this. Massing in sight, this is really useful. I'll get into massing in another tutorial. But just to get you thinking, you can use the massing tool to create more organic forms, and then you can use those forms to create walls, roofs, floors, etc. You can even import forms that you already made in, let's say, Rhino, and use the floor or wall by face tool to stick a wall onto that surface. Topography, I sometimes don't use the topography tool to make topography in a studio model because it's a little bit finicky. I can get into that in a later tutorial as well. But it's useful, and if you are going to be making topography, you use a building pad right here to basically void out where your building is. You can split the surface if you want to edit it, sub-region, etc. And site components are like trees and bushes and things. Collaborate. This is helpful, but it might not be useful, especially when everybody is working remotely now. But you are able to collaborate if you are on the same Wi-Fi or if you're on the same server. And you can basically set up collaboration so that everybody can be working on the project at the same time. And then instead of saving, you synchronize with central, and then everybody's local files update a central file. Well, another nice thing that happens when you are using a central file is you have work sets, which are sort of like layers in Photoshop. View. So this is where all of your view information is. I'll get into visibility graphics later. Rendering in Revit isn't very good. It's a lot easier if you download a plugin. If you're willing to put in the work, it can turn out very good, but that usually involves a lot of work in editing all of your materials. You can add images, you can download images and then add those images to your materials, and then they can render really nicely. This is your 3D view. This little house is going to be your default 3D view. You can also click on it here if you want to get to it as well. And then your camera view, which is like you can make vignettes or perspectives, which is really helpful. You can also do a walkthrough, which you set a path, and it's basically a camera that takes you along that path. But this tool hasn't really improved very much in many years, and it's really glitchy, really slow, and it doesn't really give you that great of results. But there are lots of plugins that do that as well, for example, Enscape and Twinmotion, and they are a lot faster, but this can be really useful to show, for example, clients or a professor. It can show off the detail that you have modeled. And so if I click on this, I'm going to create a 3D view, and now that 3D view has appeared in the project browser right here. And I can always duplicate views here, duplicate, and I can rename my views right here. I'm going to go back to a plan by double clicking on it. And I'm going to show you to create a section. So I'm going to click on this section tool, and then I'm going to click once and then twice. And now my section has appeared in the project browser. That's right here. I can rename it as well. And I'm just going to show you. So when I click on this, the properties panel has updated to show me all of the detail on it. So I can move this, and this is basically the view range of this section. So I can make it really thick if I want to see elements in elevation, or I can make it really, really thin. And that is updating simultaneously right here, the far clip offset. And if you're making drawings, your scale is right here. If you notice that your plan views have disappeared, or if you made a level and the plan view didn't automatically show up in your project browser, you can just click here, plan view, floor plan, and you'll have a list, and then you can create a view from there. The rest of these buttons I don't use too much. Schedules can be really useful if you want to basically create a list or a chart that you can totally customize. For example, a list of all of these window types, their materials, all of the comments that are associated with them. And then you can create sheets here as well, or you can create the sheets by right-clicking and clicking New Sheet. I'll get into that in a later video as well. And then this user interface button is really helpful. If I scroll down here, the keyboard shortcuts. So this is basically a big list of all of the keyboard shortcuts that already exist in Revit, and you can Google that as well. But one thing that's awesome, when I'm trying to persuade people that Revit can be user-friendly, but people are hesitant to switch because they're used to CAD or Rhino, the keyboard shortcuts can be really helpful, especially because you can customize them. So for example, I use the Align tool a lot, but AL is really inconvenient to type on your QWERTY keyboard. So I can change that to AA or AAA. And so I can search Align right here, and I can just type in AAA, and then I can click Assign. And if you notice something else already has that, you can click Remove. Next is Manage. So this gives you all of the information about your project in general. So we have project information here. You can have your name, date, etc. Project units, you can also access this by using the keyboard shortcut UN, and you can see that as well when I hover over it, it tells you the keyboard shortcut. If I click on this, so here are all of your project units. You can change them really easily, and you can change them so that if you want, you can have different units or different types of measurement in different units. So for example, if you like to work in millimeters, but if you need to know the area of a floor plate in, let's say, feet squared for a calculation, you can click on this, change it to feet, and then when you click on that floor slab, it'll tell you in the properties panel exactly what that area is. The project location, you can geolocate your project. You can manage links here. You can also create phasing if you need to. And then if you ever download any plugins, they're going to appear right here. I can get to Enscape maybe in another tutorial. And then your Modify tab is always going to be at the end, and whenever you are working in a tool, it will probably automatically open. This will make more sense later on, but these are your tools that you're always going to be using. So this is the Align tool, Offset, Mirror, Split, Move, Copy, Rotate, Trim and Extend. It's better than in CAD. Array, Scale. Scaling in Revit, so much easier than any other program. And you can always pin elements, which will make them so that you can't accidentally edit them or mess them up. So now I'm just gonna create a wall just to show you how that works in a view, but I'll get to in the next tutorial how to create a really simple building from start to finish. But I'm gonna click Architecture and I'm gonna click Wall. And now my properties panel has updated. I can change the wall type by doing this, clicking on this. And now when you're using the Revit tools, you're going to be clicking Escape a lot. So when I'm using this wall tool, it wants me to keep drawing. So I'm going to click Escape once, but I'm still in the wall tool. You can see my Modify panel here. And then if I click Escape again, now I'm out of the wall tool. So now I'm just going to open my 3D view. So right now this wall is starting at level 1 and it's unconnected. So I'm going to change this to be, I'm going to change it to go up to level 2, or I can make it go a lot higher like this. So in my 3D view, you can see I have this, which allows me to orbit really easily. It's a tall wall. Or I can orbit by using, I click the scroll wheel and I hold down Shift, and that allows me to orbit. And then I can pan by just holding down that scroll button. And then I can also zoom in and out using that scroll. Now I'm going to show you what these bottom icons mean. So this is your scale. It doesn't really matter that much in a 3D view, but if you're making sheets or if you're annotating a drawing, you might need to change the scale, and you can customize it here as well. Some families come in different levels of detail, so this shows the level of detail. I usually keep it on fine. This here is your visibility settings. So I usually work with wireframe or hidden line or shaded, but it also does consistent colors, realistic, or ray tray. I can show you what I like to work in though. You can go to graphic display options and this window pops up, and then I like to work in shaded. And if you're using this BIM as a studio project and you're not exactly modeling everything perfectly and it's not all clean because you're just trying to get something to show your prof and nobody's ever going to open this BIM anyways, I like to turn off show edges, because that's where your model tends to look not very clean, is when those edges overlap and things aren't joined. So turn off those show edges and then have some fun with these shadows. The cast shadows are what the sun would cast naturally. And then the ambient shadows, I had a prof call them like dusty corners, sort of like if you were to shade a drawing, but it makes it look nice. And then you can adjust the lighting here. So I usually up the ambient light and down the shadows a little bit. And then you can click apply or you can click OK. So now this is what it looks like. It looks really nice when you have a big project. And then the hide function in Revit is a little bit not intuitive. So if I want to hide something, I can click on it, and then I can right click and I can say hide element, hide in view, and then I can say elements and it will hide just this one instance, or I can say category and it will hide all of that category. So for example, all of these walls. I can also just click this, the little sunglasses or glasses icon, and click hide element as well there. Now I can't see it anymore. So in order to get out of this, I can just say reset temporary hide isolate. Or if I did it this way, I no longer have that blue border, and so I can continue working without that. But if I want to see it, I click reveal hidden elements, this little light bulb icon, and it'll show everything that I've hidden. And then you can pick what you want to unhide. So I can click on it, and then I can right click and say unhide in view, or I can click unhide right here. And then I can just come out of that view. That's pretty much all I use from this bottom tab here. If you have links in, this allows you to be able to select the links, and this allows you to be able to select pinned icon or elements. Just a couple last tips that you might need to know when you're starting a project. If I'm in a plan, and if for some reason, if my view looks like this and I can't find my project, you can just type ZE, which is zoom extent, the keyboard shortcut for that, and it'll zoom to my view. Another thing is you want to always be working with thin lines turned on. That is right here. If I have it turned off, like I do now, when I zoom in, I can see that there's natural line weights that Revit assigns. And so when I'm working with something really detailed, it can be kind of challenging because those thick lines kind of obscure your view. So you always want to have thin lines turned on so that it's always paper thin. I think that is it for this tutorial. I'll see you guys next time with how to create a really simple building from start to finish. Let me know in the comments if there's anything else that you want me to cover. Thank you.